What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and today I'm back to bring you guys another episode of For the Greater with this guy.
Gershwan.
And tell him what it is.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, comment down below. Put question in front of your question because we get to those questions first.
That is what the homie, the Baconator, Richard Baker, has done and said and asked. His question is, do you think that GW will drop any of the 40K armies? If so, which one would be most likely? He goes with the Harlequins.
So before we get into our theories, they kind of already dropped a particular faction, and that is the Inquisition.
Mm-hmm.
Back in previous editions, you can play, they were either called the Agents of the Imperium or they were just called the Inquisition. But you could play them, and they had their own codex and everything, and that no longer exists. So that actually comes, I don't even know what codex is going to come in for 9th edition, but right now, you just have like mercenaries that you can use, and that is what Battlescribe tells you to do.
Right.
So I'm guessing it's in one of the codexes for like the Adeptus Mechanicus or whatever. But yeah, the Inquisition is gone.
Yeah, which kind of sucks because like they had very diverse units. You could go with a full-fledged like Inquisitor and like Space Marine armor, kind of like Inquisitor Rex, or you could even have like a Jagero weaponsmith, the Assassins.
Yeah, and the reason that happened too was because like I think the branches that also included the Inquisition grew. So now we have the Sisters of Battle, whereas before the Sisters of Battle were like an okay army, but like now it's its own army with a lot of units and stuff like that.
Same with the Adeptus Custodes.
Yeah. So that's why we see that. I wonder what's going to happen in the future. Now, which one do you think would just be completely erased?
Like, I was going to agree with you with the Harlequins, because when you look at the range of models and books and lore, the Harlequins have very few models specific to them, because obviously they can pull from the Eldar, Dark Eldar, etc. But yeah, there's very few Harlequin-specific models, but in the meta, Harlequins are really good. So the Harlequins are getting a lot of limelight during COVID, surprisingly. And I think that would be an army to not touch in that manner. Because if it's winning a lot of tournaments, people are going to want to buy those models and play them. And if they just get rid of it, obviously that's sales getting, missed.
Yeah. But in terms, I think, of people actually playing them, it would have to be an Eldar army that gets kicked out and just added on to, like, the grander craft world or grander like just Eldar tag,
because I think that's what they were trying to do with the Inari, trying to pull everything into one faction
and make it easier for you to like collect all three instead of collecting separately.
Yeah, which also is easier on GW. Like instead of making the Harlequins a bigger force, making new sculpts, making new lore and whatnot, they could just bring it all in,
right?
Which makes sense. But which one do you think is gonna go? Like, if it does happen,
like just completely get rid of it. I mean, it would have to be like some type of like either the Inquisition or it would be Harlequins. I would say, yeah. Any other faction, I don't think would be touched.
They're too big, too notable. In my eyes, they kind of already are doing it with Slaanesh. They never touch anything about Slaanesh. How many times have we seen Khorne get the spotlight, the Death Guard, and like Nurgle? Even Tzeentch gets a little bit more attention than Slaanesh does.
The interesting thing right now with Slaanesh is we're starting to see it in Age of Sigmar, where Age of Sigmar just got a bunch of new models that were supposed to be heralds of Slaanesh or whatever. But they fulfilled not so much like lust and sex, which is what Slaanesh is mostly thought of, but they actually fulfill the perfection aspect of it.
Beauty and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I wonder if they're going to do that for 40K. I hope they don't, just because I like to see titties, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because the whole thing about like 40K, it's supposed to be grim dark, and it's like, how are you going to be all like beautiful and like arrogant and perfect? I mean, I guess you could.
I really like the lore behind the Emperor's Children and how like they were supposed to be that. They were supposed to be like these beautiful beings, and then they got twisted by the corruption of Slaanesh. But to Slaanesh, that is beauty. Like the fact that they have vents for mouths and that they are,
multicolored.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
But it just sucks that they just get left out so often.
From 40K, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like there's already been like 2 big like pushes for Slaanesh in Age of Sigmar.
Yep.
And because like they had the Greater Demon of Slaanesh, and now they got like I forgot what his name, but it's like the dude in all gold armor.
Yeah.
Which is probably the closest thing we'll get to Fulgrim without being a demon.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
You could do some cool kit bashing.
I was looking at him too, and I'm like, you could probably make the Emperor. Just like have the hair be black and like kind of change a few things, but yeah.
How big is the model? I wonder compared to like Gilliman.
Yeah, that's true. Because he did look pretty big, but that just might be like
height or like his
scale.
flying thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with that.
Mm-hmm.
Next question comes from PB Unit. What happened to the Lord of the Rings Warhammer? I think I still have a cave troll somewhere. He is magnificent.
Yeah. They still come out with new models and stuff. In the previous Warhammer TV like Twitch thing, they actually revealed some new models for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and that whole line is really good for filling the ranks of like a D&D thing. Like if you have a D&D group and they're really visual, buying some Lord of the Rings stuff would be really smart. From terrain to actual like just models.
Yeah.
Because I bought the ones that look like they're from the desert or whatever. I forget what they're called. They're the ones that ride the elephants. And they look really cool, and they're like they work really well as guards to a town or things like that. And they come with giant spikes.
Yeah,
it's cool.
And it's interesting because like our nearby GW, there's actually people that were like painting and like playing Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, so it's active.
There's still a fan base for it. One of my high school teachers actually played it. Like, I was surprised because like he hit me up on social media. It's like, oh, I didn't know you were into like Games Workshop, and he was like, oh yeah, this is because I thought he played like Space Marines or something, but no, he played Lord of the Rings. The more you know.
Yep.
This one's by Escherwood. Do the Chaos Gods have an actual presence? Because you never actually see them talking or fighting somebody. It's always through an avatar. So, could they potentially manifest into the Milky Way galaxy and actually be able to see the Chaos Gods fight the Emperor? Would be cool. Yeah, usually when you see Chaos or the gods, it's like an avatar or a representation of what they actually are. Because if you were to actually see them, you'd go insane. And in the warp, it's everything's all effed up anyway.
Yeah, because we evolved to perceive reality as it is right now. When you go into a completely different dimension, time and space is not what you were biologically evolved to perceive. So that messes with the fabric of your reality, and then that's how you go insane.
Right.
And then just remember that like even a simple like a beast of Nurgle is still a representation of Nurgle in some way. Like it is Nurgle.
Right. Yeah. Very deep when you think about it.
Super deep. So deep you can go swimming in it.
Whoa.
This question comes from Jordan Morgan. That name kind of rhymes, right? Jordan Morgan with Are the Legions based off of... With the legions based off of the Ultramarines are based off of ancient Rome, what about the other legions, all 20? And if you can do a video on it, also love your videos, keep them up. So I think what you're saying is like the Ultramarines were based off of the Roman Legion. What were the other legions based off of? And the answer is like all legions were based off of the Roman and Greek legions.
Right. You see it a lot during like the wording for certain things, like for Primaris Marine, crossing the Rubicon. That was like totally, like that phrase was 100% used back in the day during like the Roman times.
So the Ultramarines are the most heavily influenced by that aesthetic, but in reality, all Space Marines were based off of that aesthetic, and then they just deviated slightly.
Right.
So when you look at like
the white scars, you got the whole Mongol feel with like the scimitar blades.
Yeah.
Usually, even their facial features are very akin with like the mustaches, the sun-beat skin and whatnot.
With Jagatai Khan and like the Mongolians and stuff like that.
They even have like eagles on them and like pelts and stuff.
Yeah. But again, like you still have that Roman like flavor to the core of the White Scars too. And then you look at like the World Eaters. The World Eaters are supposed to be the gladiatorial, like basically the ones that almost conquered Rome. In that story, what is it with Spartacus? I think his name was. So that, and then I'm trying to think of like a really difficult one. I guess just like the Thousand Sons, but they're really Egyptian flavored.
Yeah. And all these, you really tend to get the flavoring best when you look at their 30K counterparts.
Yeah.
The Horus Heresy, that's 100% where you'll see the big differentiations between the factions.
Yeah. And then obviously you have very classic sci-fi ones too, like the Iron Hands. The Iron Hands are still connected to like the Roman aesthetic, but in a sci-fi or a science fantasy type of way.
Right.
So yeah.
And then you got like the Blood Angels with like Twilight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How they're like literal vampires and they'll suck your blood because they got the red thirst.
They'll suck something else.
Oh, I hope. And then you'll be sitting down and then they'll be calling you Horus and then they'll try to kill you because the black rage has overcome them.
Yes. And you die. This next question comes from Newfieman 709. Why are you dressing like Julian from the Trailer Park Boys? You know, Jack and Coke was my go-to drink when I was younger. Now, no, that stuff is just a headache waiting to happen. More seriously, how many hours a day do you put into YouTube? 2 videos a day, the time to look stuff up and organize. You guys should be careful not to burn out. Keep up the good work and all the best. We burned out like 2 years ago, man.
Right, we're like candles with the wax all melted out.
We're barely holding on, and like the reason we make these videos is because they're fun.
Yeah,
it's fun to talk to you guys, and it's not like we're gonna stop playing 40K. But thanks for the concern. It already happened. We are ghosts of our former selves. The joy of making videos is kind of gone.
Yeah, think of us as the Black Legion. We're not really there until we are.
Right. With that said, though, I think I've been having fun with like the hobby videos. Recently, I've been building. Well, you guys have probably already seen, but I built like some terrain pieces and stuff like that. I think terrain building is really what keeps me going.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like the lore videos and then like switch on over to like the craft type stuff where it's like, oh, this is how you build a floating mountain and stuff like that. It's a very different aesthetic.
Yeah.
Almost very relaxing to see like the work and all of it.
I was surprised that you guys enjoyed me building the IKEA desk.
That was very relaxing. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I should do that more often. But yeah, thanks for the concern, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. This one's by Caboose NZ69. Do you think that one of the reasons that the Imperium is just hanging in there is because humans breed like rabbits?
Yeah, that could be it. Tzeentch's ultimate plan was to just keep us stagnant and just continue to feed them. Yeah,
because once humanity, like look at the Eldar, their birth rate decreased so low that they're dying, and they've been dying for such a long time. If that happened to humanity, yes, it would make humanity weaker and everything else would just overcome. But at the same time, that would also impact the Chaos Gods. So it's kind of a relationship like between like humans and livestock where you need to kill livestock to eat it to keep yourself living, but at the same time you need the livestock to grow up enough to have children so that you can keep the cycle going.
Yep.
It's like chaos is farming humanity basically.
Unless you are into eating baby goats and baby cows. What are they called? Veal?
Yeah.
And cabritos. Venison is a goat or
Takis and
yeah. But yeah. This question comes from Alan Vance. Yo guys, I'm thinking of creating my own successor chapter, but I can't decide if they should originate or if they should be from the Imperial Fist, Blood Angels, or Dark Angels. Among these 3, which one y'all pick? Greetings from Singapore.
Hey, Singapore.
Is that where that TikToker, the one that goes 1, 2, 3, 6? I can't even do it.
I know exactly.
He harmonizes. Yeah.
That is my spirit animal. Interesting. Singapore. That's a new one.
So Imperial Fist, Blood Angels, or Dark Angels?
I think it all depends on what you want your lore to consist of, because all three of them are completely different. If you're just playing like tactically and what has the better like chapter tactics, it depends again on your army build
and the edition.
Yeah. Like if you're playing it in this edition,
Imperial
Fists are really good, but at the same time, if you're going to play a more close combat army, Blood Angels.
Yeah, so I agree that you should pay attention to the lore and even just leave the... Because we have a friend that did the same thing with this. He created his own successor chapter, but he doesn't give them an origin because he wants to play whatever chapter he wants to play, and say that they are their successors. But yeah, paying attention to the lore, like you said, is really good because... The core of the Imperial Fist is stoic. Like you are like the police of the galaxy. You guys are like not to the extent of like the Ultramarines with their Codex Astartes, but you are like kind of like the secondary poster boys.
Yeah. You also like to hit yourself and feel good about the pain.
The pain glove, yeah. And obviously they're siege masters, they're bolter people, things like that.
If you want to play the Blood Angels, you have to make sure to include the Red Thirst, because every chapter stemming from the Blood Angels, even Primaris, still fall to the Red Thirst.
And I think that gives you the more creative freedom to be a little bit more wild with your theories. So if you don't want the Codex to actually dictate how you create the lore, then yes, going the Blood Angels would be the better bet. And then finally, the Dark Angels are the ones that are kind of like the edgelords.
They're mysterious.
They want to be like, "Ooh, cool, I'm a badass," and stuff, because I wear hoods while I fight, which is stupid. But yeah.
You're shutting off your field of vision. But at the same time, you want to look cool, right?
But then I think that lore, that background does trap you a little bit more in terms of like, well, because I might be a traitor, I might not be.
Right, and also if you want to play a certain wing... it's either going to be all Terminators, all jet bikes. It depends.
And then you also have to consider like my main mission or the mission of the successor chapter is to destroy the fallen. All Dark Angels usually tend to, successors or not, tend to follow that. So yeah, that's a good question though.
Yeah, I think lore would dictate that first and foremost, and then you go with the chapter tactic that's best.
Right. Good question.
Yeah. Interesting that you pick those three. Usually it's like, I want to be a successor of like Chaos, but I want to be a good guy. Which is also a thing. You could also do that.
Yep. This next question comes from Magic Eye. If you guys had to put a number on it, what is the conversion rate of thrones to dollar? And also, how much does your average Imperial citizen make in a year?
Dollar bills, y'all.
So it's really difficult to make the conversion, but I would say it's kind of like what the dollar is to Bitcoin right now. And if you guys have been checking out the Bitcoin market, it is booming right now. If you made the investment before the elections, feels good right now, doesn't it? Yeah, so like I think Bitcoin right now, as of making of this, is like 18,000 per $1. So, no. $18,000 per one Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's the other way around.
So I think it's the same way. So like one throne would be, because you're thinking of like a galactic currency. Yeah.
And when you think of like how much the average Imperial citizen makes, it's like, it's pretty much nothing.
Right.
Because they don't really have a life to be spending their earnings.
Yeah. Even though I've never seen like a lower denomination of thrones, because you know how we have the dollar and then we have cents. So I don't know if there is a cent value to thrones. So one throne might just be a penny.
Yeah. And
if that's the case, then I don't think we could put a number on it.
Yeah, it seems like the Imperium values time and like work more than actual money.
And also, like back in the day when like America was like a true capitalist nation, and like the companies basically ruled everything. Companies used to be assholes to their workers, and they would pay them in a currency that they can use in the company-owned stores. Mm-hmm. And I think the Imperium would be the same way, where it's like the planetary governor understands that there's thrones, but he's going to create his own currency on his planet and pay the people that, and then they could only spend that money on the stores that take those currencies, which is in the high planets and stuff like that. So they might make like $20,000 a year, dollars wise, and the material and everything is just really, really cheap. Mm-hmm. But that's just what I'm guessing. I don't really know.
Yeah, it all depends. And it's like usually you don't really see that side of 40K.
No,
they like talk about it a little bit in like the novels and stuff, but usually it's not you're not gonna see conversion rates and stuff like that.
Right. Those were the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, please comment down below. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
As always, I'm the Sound Alchemist.
Gersh1.
And we are out.
Oh, I used to put my freedom first in anything.